trust God with the results of your obedience. Listen to God about what your body needs to get through it, because God knows you also need to be able to function and carry on life. And He also knows what's going on in your body.
Welcome back to Fasting Food Faith. I'm Brianne Sims, RN, co-founder of Kingdom Fasting, and you will notice that I do not have my other half here today for this podcast. And that is because God is walking us into a new season. So for the next few months, you're going to see me on the podcast as well as two of my very good friends, Chelsey and Teresa. And that is because God has been walking us through some similar things, and most recently has said, hey, it's time for you to share about that on your podcast. And so here we are, being obedient, which is what fasting is all about. And these two lovely ladies know all about fasting, obviously, because I fast all the time. They're close friends. And so they're also in the fasting world with me. And so I had this thought about this podcast like several weeks ago, because at the beginning of the year, God called each of us into long fasting. And it's kind of unheard of or harder to think about, or I don't know, just like being a woman doing extended fasting. It just sounds kind of crazy. And most women are like, what? No, I don't think I can do that. And so we really kind of want to like demystify this idea of extended fasting for women. We're all kind of just in different hormonal situations, I should say. And also then adding fasting on top of that and being obedient to what God wants us to do has led to some amazing breakthroughs physically, emotionally, spiritually, like all the things. But God has really cared for us in each of the fasts that He's called us to. And so we really just want to speak to that today and just share our experiences so that you can find some information, some tidbits, some value in that for yourself, and what a long or extended fast might look like for you on your journey with God and fasting with Him. I think it's amazing that He had all three of us start fasting like within a day or two of each other at the very beginning of the year, doing specifically a fast about obedience. He's called me specifically to do fast at the beginning of the year, basically since we started fasting for different reasons. But I found it exciting that He also called you two both to do that this time too. And so yeah, I just want to talk about that a little bit. How did you end up beginning a fast? And we've all did different lengths of fasting. I know your story specifically like is very interesting. So, because you did your extended fast with your husband.
Yes, and it was my first fast ever, really.
Yeah.
I fasted one other time for a couple of days one time, and it went well, but I've only done breakfast fasts and have just been quite fearful of the fasting idea, quite frankly. And I kept listening to Brianne talk about it and all the things God showed her, and just listening to her experience with fasting made me keep thinking, okay, I can do this. Surely I can do this. But I could never build up enough willpower to actually do it and get over the fear factor, because fear is a hindering force in my life. But God's walking us through that, right? Each one of us. So it was very interesting. My husband and I had been waking up at 3 o'clock, every morning for 3 mornings in a row. And finally, I was like, Lord, are you trying to tell us something? And instead of saying, can I please just go back to sleep now, and going back to sleep. But one morning I was like, Lord, are you trying to tell us something? And He's like, yes, I'm glad you finally asked. And He just started sharing with us some different things that He wanted to tell us. And at the end of it, my husband and I were like, well, what do you want us to do, God? How do you want us to pray about this? And He said, I want you to fast, and you're starting this morning. And it was the first time in my life where I had no fear. I was completely confident. I knew it was the Lord's heart and His desire. And He, just through the power of His Spirit, just filled me with the power to even think that I could do this. It was just like, yes, He said it, I'm doing it, end of story. And we just started. We had an amazing day reading the fasting chapter together, Isaiah 58. And just we got up and we read it. And then I was thinking, we're starting a fast. We should go get our blood work done. Sam and Brianna are always talking about blood work if you're going to do an extended fast, because God was also clear that we were supposed to do a 21-day fast, which also is quite interesting, going from nothing to 21 days. But there was just a confidence and a peace and a trust in my heart that I knew God was going to get us through it. And I've listened to Brienne talk about her stories of how she just would ask God, what she needed, how to get through it, if it was time to eat something. And so having all that arsenal of tools in my backpack, I guess, just made me confident and at peace to know that God was going to get us through it. And so we got up, we went over to North Platte, did our blood work, prayed, and just talked to God. And there was just such a peace about it. Incredible peace.
That is one of the things that I think people kind of skip over, like, especially if you're doing an extended fast. And I think we haven't talked about this that much, but when you are partnering with God and what He wants to do, there is such a peace because you're surrendering the plans to Him, whatever specific thing that you're fasting and praying for. When it comes to fasting and prayer, when you partner with God on overcoming that or asking for His breakthrough, His guidance, His wisdom, whatever it is, there's just this settledness that comes into your spirit and this peace of partnering with Him and walking that out with Him. And what I've realized over so many times of doing this with Him is that when I'm not on a particular fast with Him, I miss that internal peace of I am at rest. I am in God's will right now with what I'm doing. And also, I'm actively doing something to invite God into my life and the lives of those around me. And there's nothing better than that feeling of knowing that you're doing something of eternal significance. And so, partnering with God in a fast there's just nothing like it. Honestly, there just isn't. And I think that a lot of people, when they go into fasting, that surprises them. That feeling of calm and closeness and connectedness with God and doing something with Him because He loves you enough to do something with you and partner with you, and He cares about the cares of your heart. So that connection, it's like with fasting, that sort of all comes together, and it's just an amazing feeling to be in that place with God and just sure, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, but it's a partnership. It's not just you going out and mustering up enough willpower to do it, which I think is where I was at in the past. And what part of the problem was is I got to do this. I got to figure this out. And it wasn't. It was totally a journey and a partnership with God this time.
Yeah.
No, you didn't know when you went to bed that you were gonna fast for 21 days the next morning?
No, no clue. It wasn't even on my radar, quite honestly. And that it was January 2nd of all days. That's just what I find interesting about it.
What about you? How did God lead you into beginning a fast at the beginning of the year?
I've done many beginning of the year fasts. I already kind of knew that I needed and wanted to do a beginning of the year fast, but last year was the first time I had done it without really truly bringing God into it. So I was very disappointed in that fast by the end of it. But this year, when leading up to it, I didn't know right away when He wanted me to start the fast. I just knew, because usually I always start right after Christmas. I just jump right into it. But this year He told me, I don't remember what day He told me, but He eventually did tell me sometime after Christmas, you're going to start on the 1st of January. And I didn't think much of it. I was just like, okay, I have a time frame. I don't have to worry about it till then. So, because He knows how my brain works too. So sometimes I get the wake up, okay, you're jumping in. I've had that before too for shorter fasts. I didn't know what He was going to have me do this time because I usually do 40-day fasts. And I didn't know if it was going to be 40 days or what. And He wouldn't give me a number because it was an obedience fast. He's like, you're going to do what I tell you to do. And I was like, okay. So I knew it was going to be longer, but I didn't know how long. So I tried not to let that get wrapped up in my head at all. Like I needed not focus on numbers. So I weighed myself, but I didn't look at the scale. My husband took the measurement for me. I wasn't supposed to focus on anything but God. So the scientific stuff on the side, like my husband did that for me, so I didn't get wrapped up in that at all. But he told me to start on the 1st, which worked out great because I wanted to. I was sick of eating. I mean, I had a great New Year's with my husband, and I was ready, so ready to jump into it. It didn't really scare me or worry me or anything, but the obedience part of it this was the first time I really focused on that, and that was good for me because I'm one of those fasters that sometimes can rely too much on fasting fuels. So this time being like, okay, God, what do I actually need versus just what's willy nilly in my head? Like, oh, I could have a few nuts. I'm kind of feeling peckish. I'm going to have a few nuts. And it's like, do you need those? So relying on God and making that commitment to be like, okay, I'm going to ask Him for everything. Everything. Do I need to take this multivitamin this morning? Do I need to get to drink tea this morning? Just deciding to do that was a big step for me because, again, I was influenced by how Bree has walked through that with one of her fasts, and it made me inspired to want to do that myself, but also quite intimidated. So God's been working on me for a while now and trying to get to where I can have actual conversations with Him, and that was big for me because what kept me from doing it was not knowing how to talk to God. So, but this last year, that was our big focus, and I got there.
Yeah, it just takes time for God to unlock our hearts and minds in a way that we can finally hear from Him. What good plans He has for us.
Yes,
So, yeah, I would agree with that.
and developing that trust too.
Having that trust there for extended fasting is a huge piece of the puzzle of being able to trust God and hear His voice and be obedient in a fast, because that was the fast that God called Sam and I to do for the month of January, was an obedience fast also, and to trust Him for a long period of time with what we weren't eating, but also what we were eating. So it was a fast from doing whatever we thought was right. Like, I don't know if that really makes sense, but going into the fast, I know that He wanted us to do some fasting for our health and weight loss after coming through the holidays and time with family and all the things. And so He did have us fast from food a lot of the days, but there were also a lot of days where He was like, no, I want you to eat this specifically, to take these vitamins. And He also wanted us to ask what to drink, and what to feed our minds and our hearts. And so there's were different points when we were not supposed to be on our phones or watching things or doing whatever it is, because He wanted to have us to have more downtime and rest. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you're not the one having to make the decisions, there's rest that comes with that. Like, you're not having to think a bunch of things through, figure things out, and make decisions for everyone around you. When God's the one making the decisions, it's very restful. And so I feel like that is part of the reason that He had us doing such an obedience fast, was just surrendering so many things to us that we're so used to making just snap decisions about every day of our lives without involving Him. And I think He really wanted to impress upon us that He cares about the littlest things in our lives. He wants to be a part of everything and do everything with us. And so that was really eye-opening, and He really showed up big in that long fast for us, especially because we had a vacation even during that time, and He was directing us, when to eat and when not to eat and what to enjoy, and just teaching us how to enjoy the good things that He's given us without making that an idol in our life, but appreciating His goodness towards us in the things that He's provided for us. And that can be food also. And so shifting our hearts behind enjoying things, instead of making it a selfish endeavor or like, I need this or I deserve this or whatever, recognizing that the beautiful things in our lives come from God and that all good things come from Him. And so when we're recognizing His glory and His provision, it changes our mindset to, instead of lack and worrying about what I'm going to have or whether I'm going to have enough or need this or that, to a mindset of provision and letting God provide for you. Provide for your health, provide for your nourishment, provide for your happiness and your joy in experiencing the beautiful gifts that He wants to give you because He loves you. And so that was a huge shift of like, especially in the US, we have this mindset of like, I have to earn it. Like, I have to work hard and I have to earn that. I have to earn that vacation. I have to earn that money. I have to earn that time off. I have to earn this good thing. Somehow we're going to just earn everything. And God wants to shift that on its head and say, no, I want to give you this good thing because I love you. And I think we don't ever take that to heart.
No.
Like, when was the last time I saw something in my life and thought, wow, this beautiful croissant. I love croissants. And we were at a place where I could get a croissant. This beautiful croissant, instead of just being like, I deserve this because I fasted or I exercised or I walked all day. No, it's a completely different mindset of like, God gave this to me and provided this opportunity for me to enjoy this because he knows it's something that I enjoy so much and that I love. And so seeing that as a gift from him instead of something that I've earned or needed or don't need or having guilt over enjoying it, like it takes all of that out of the equation and you're just left with enjoyment of the lavishness of the Father's love in my life. And so it really becomes recognizing his goodness. And I feel like that's what fasting is all about. Taking the time to shift our perspective and recognizing his goodness and that he is going to provide for us and our needs. We're trusting him with our body, our physical body, to sustain us without the food, or trusting that he's going to tell us when it might be time to eat something or drink something or do something differently. We're trusting him in that. We're trusting him to care for us. And so there's a level of trust that has to be established when you're fasting and being obedient with him. And so I think a lot of people, it takes time to get to that moment of trust, like you were talking about, not being fearful going into the fast, but being completely confident in his love and care for you during that fast. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point too, of being able to trust that he's going to carry me through it. It really is a journey of just continually taking those baby steps, being closer to God in a relationship with him. And fasting and prayer, I feel like sort of amplifies that. And like it's like if you're in a car or an airplane, you're gonna go way faster in a plane than you are in a car. So you're gonna go way faster with fasting than without it in your relationship with it.
Yeah, that trust piece is a huge, huge part. I can see that now. Like, I don't think I was at that place in my relationship with the Lord before. And he's been, yeah, just working that in my heart this year. I love the word and the phrase wooing. Like, God's been wooing my heart to see his heart and to see his heart for me. And we've all been doing some prayer times together and some inner healing work where we're taking Jesus into places and hard places in our hearts and our lives, and where Jesus shows up and shows himself that he's there caring for us and that he sees us and that he wants to help us and he wants to love us in the midst of that. And I think that all of those situations are that proof time and time and time and time and time again. Hey, I showed up here. I did this. Will you trust me for the next step? And so that trust piece is huge. And his love piece. Like, it feels like those two go together. You can't trust somebody if you don't believe that they love you and they have your best interests in mind,
Yep.
and that they're going to do what is best for you. You're not going to love them or believe that they love you. And I can so see how that was part of the process of building that understanding with God. I know for me, I'd been struggling with diarrhea for a couple of months before that. And so part of the fast, I was like, well, Lord, what am I supposed to do about the diarrhea piece? And it continued through the fast, but he kept telling me over and over and over not to worry about it because the fast was also going to be part of the healing of that. And it was interesting, the second to the last day before we quit, the diarrhea got much better. And it's been on and off since, definitely better than it was. So I see how even that part of me being able to trust him, that he did have my best interests in mind. He knew what was going on with my body, and he helped me walk through getting enough electrolytes, even though I wasn't getting food, and minerals, and thinking through some of those things to help sustain my body. I mean, I made it. I made it 21 days, still having diarrhea, and yet God also brought some healing in that time. And I think there's some more healing, which is probably part of the reason for this next fast. And like we've talked about, how much of our physical issues are actually our emotional issues. And so how much our emotions and our stress affects what's going on in our body. So part of these fasts is also learning to take time to be with Jesus, to let him meet us in those places that he begins revealing. Because fasting is also, I feel like it's a lot of cleansing.
Yeah.
I mean, our bodies, you guys have gone through the science and the medical side of it and what your body's shedding and getting rid of and repairing and rebuilding. But I think the Lord wants us to realize that's just an example of what he wants to do with us spiritually on us too, because
Mhm.
he wants to prepare our hearts and he wants to cleanse our hearts and our lives of the things that are keeping us from greater intimacy and connection with him. And so that also is a huge part of the fasting. Yeah, or God wants to bring some insights into things, make things clearer.
And for me, it was just weird to talk to God and expect an answer. So, which is also a form of trust issue, you know, but because learning how to talk to God was just, for me, I'll admit it was very weird. I'm just kind of like, okay, sure. So, learning how to overcome that and that you can actually have a conversation with Him, and that was hugely eye opening for me. But then it's just the, I guess I want to say, discipline in the obedience also of actually actively waking up in the morning and being like, okay, God. Because for me, it wasn't just what to eat and what to put in my mouth and asking that. It was also, I had got told that I'm not supposed to have my phone at all when I go to bed. I had to get in an alarm clock. And the only reason why I had that is for the very few days where I had clients that had meetings with me early. Otherwise, my part of my obedience was just trusting God to wake me up whenever He was going to wake me up. And which is kind of scary for me because I'm a night owl and who knows when I'll wake up in the morning with him. But he did. He woke me up almost consistently, almost the same time every morning. And sometimes it was because he wanted to tell me something, or other times it's because something ended up coming up and somebody needed me. So that was part of the whole obedience part of it. And it wasn't just food based. Some of it was your attitude, your heart attitude, your how you're approaching your day, or I need you to do this because later on you reflect back and you're like, "Oh, that's why that happened," you know? Or normally every time I do a 40-day fast, I took a multivitamin and all my other vitamins every single day. You don't even question or think about it. But it was interesting now that I'm going through all of my different cycle and hormonal changes, how he knows what you need to take to get through the day. So there were days where he had me take nothing at all, or there was days where he had me take a few other things that I don't normally take. So it's just interesting how, when you reflect back on it, that he truly does know what you need. Not as a Christian, we all know that, but do we practice it?
Exactly.
Exactly, Chelsea, exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like fasting is like training around daily obedience and even the smallest things because it's for our benefit and our good because he always has our best interests at heart and he wants us being healthy and
Yeah.
connected with him and
Mhm.
strong and able to do what he's created us to do. And yeah, just staying connected to him. It all comes together. Yeah.
Yes.
I was amazed the first week. Actually felt really amazing the first week. And God's voice was so clear. I remember looking at my daughter. She asked me, "So how's it going?" I'm like, "Absolutely amazing. I don't know why I would ever want to eat again." Like,
Yep.
she was just laughing at me because she knew how much fasting was so hard for me before.
Yeah.
And yet the clarity of God's voice was, like, propelling me. It was just, "Yes, this is amazing. I wanna keep listening, keep hearing." Now week 2 is a different story, but week 1 was really, really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the clarity and the strength of mind and heart that comes in that first week of fasting, or even at any point during your fast, like depending on your body and what you're doing and what God's doing with you. But
Yes.
that clarity and that connection with Him is
Mhm.
just amazing.
Yeah, and just the sensitivity, I feel like, to the Holy Spirit even.
Hmm.
Like, there's just some walls that come down when you're surrendering everything,
Yeah, exactly.
including food.
And that's the whole point. Yeah, He wants the walls to come down. He wants you to be as close to Him as possible because He enjoys your company. He
Yeah.
wants to be close to you, and so we have to choose to allow Him to be close to us.
Well, and even me fasting all those times before, it's of a every fast is different. None of them have been the same. But in the beginning, when I was fasting years ago, it was always, like hyper super energy. And like, I love this because of the hyper focus and the energy, and I'm going to go, 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 go. But now that I'm getting older and my hormones are changing and I'm combating against that, now I'm experiencing more things that Bree's talked about in her podcast with going through a lack of gluconeogenesis and stuff. And that energy doesn't come as easily for me depending on where I'm at in my cycle. So God had to work through that with me on this fast. That was the first time I ever had that, where I actually, because for me, I've got so much weight to lose that I usually am very food focused, but I tried not to get hyper focused on that. So he worked through that with me because there was a point where I even texted Brie. I was like, I'm dying. Not what I said, but I was like, my energy is tanked so bad. Do you think it's a gluconeogenesis thing? Because I literally did not want to even pick my head up off the couch. It was bad. And so she said, pray about it, but here's what I recommend. So I did. I prayed about it, journaled, and he was like, yes, you need to eat an egg and some bone broth. And sure enough, within 5 minutes, I was just like,
Alive.
wow. Like, but it felt so surreal too because I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I was also very scared to do that because I know how I usually am mentally. And if I get near the food or even eat a little bit of anything, there's no going back for
Yeah.
me. So trusting that God had me and that he would continue to take me through and that I wasn't going to snowball was a big mental breakthrough for me on that, learning how to navigate that because as women get older and hormones get rougher, it's not the same as it was when you were 20 and 30 anymore. It's like welcome to your 40s. So,
It's real.
it's real.
Okay. Very real.
Yep.
Just wait till you're 50.
I'm sure. I know. I thought 40 was the end of the world.
That's one of the things I appreciate about how Sam and Brienne do the fasting is the flexibility, that it's not rigid and that you're willing to listen to God about what your body needs to get through it. Because God knows you also need to be able to function and carry on life. And He also knows what's going on in your body. And like you said, the different cycle, like where you're at in your cycle as women, that plays into it hugely. Also, I was surprised when God told me to start my fast because it was during my cycle. And I thought, what on earth? Like, you can't be asking me to start my cycle. But yet there is still that confidence of, yes, he's going to get me through that. So,
And you felt better that week.
yeah.
At least you shouldn't feel better.
Exactly. Exactly. Luckily, it was kind of at the end of the cycle, but still, yeah. But the flexibility of being able to eat an egg or grab a handful of almonds or eat a cheese stick or just some of those simple things, yes, to help get you through, or some sauerkraut or whatever it is your body's needing
Yeah.
to propel you.
Support it through fast. Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I want to caveat that a little bit with just as women, typically we just cannot sustain a longer fast as men can just because our bodies are built differently. We have hormones. We were created to create life.
Mm.
And so it's just going to look different. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful thing, the way that God designed women. And so sometimes there will be times when you're fasting and he does want you to completely abstain from food for an extended period of time, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that you'll still be doing regular life activities. Like there are times when he'll call you to a fast and literally to pray or to rest while you are fasting. And so it's really just key hearing from God and knowing exactly what it is that you need to be obedient in. And it was very difficult for me when I first started doing long fasts to eat something when he told me to eat something because I felt like I was doing something wrong or disobeying or like
Cheating.
not living up
Cheat.
to what he wanted me to do or what he called me to do, or feeling like, yes, a failure if I had to eat something in order to continue fasting, until we looked at the research and it doesn't kick you out of ketosis or out of a fasted state to eat something if your body needs it. And a lot of times us women with our hormones, he will have you eat something during your extended fast, and that is okay if that is what he's telling you to do.
Clarify what would be okay to eat.
Hey,
Like, don't go get a croissant.
okay, no, do not do that.
The first stop, ask God.
Yes, exactly.
Step one.
There you go. He's not going to tell you to eat
Yeah.
carbs.
No, do not do that. That will disrupt your fast in so many ways.
Yeah.
And what I mean by eating something, like, okay, for example, here during the long fast, I just finished a 7-day fast a week ago. And during this 7-day fast, the longest that he would have me go without eating something, because I had a very busy schedule that week to keep up with, was like 36 to 48 hours. Like in that window, that was the longest he would have me go without having something. And by something, I mean something to fuel my body well, but keep me in ketosis, in the fasted state. And so if any of you have ever done the keto diet, it's kind of similar to that, but not wholly. It depends on what God asks you to eat. So he would have me eat like a beef stick in the afternoon sometimes in order to have enough energy to keep working until I got home in the evening. Occasionally, he would have me eat something in the evening like an egg or some cheese or some bacon or some bone broth with an egg in it or something. So you're eating protein and fat there. Now, that being said, sometimes he had me eat a salad in the afternoon, but there wasn't any like sugar on it. Like I didn't have sugary dressing on it. I didn't have a bunch of fruit on it. I wasn't eating potatoes or french fries or rice or any other grain or heavy carb load. So it would be some vegetables and some meat or dairy typically is the only thing that he would have me eat during those long fasting periods. But sometimes my body needed the proteins, the amino acids in the meat to help my body fuel what it needed to do in order to burn the fat. Because that's where my body tends to struggle is with the gluconeogenesis. And I think a lot of women in perimenopause probably struggle with that because you start to gain weight, your hormones shift. And so your body struggles to burn fat as easily and quickly as it used to. And so sometimes you need those things to keep going, but God knows exactly what you need. Your body might do everything just perfectly and you might not need those things. But if you do and you're not feeling well, you think, I'm having all of these symptoms, I'm not feeling well, I can't continue with my day. What does God want me to do? Should I break my fast completely? Should I be done fasting? Or is there something that he wants me to take in the meantime to continue in obedience with him during this fast? So that's where hearing his voice and being connected to the Holy Spirit, having that relationship of trust and love established with him is so important and integral into doing extended fasting as a woman.
Yes,
So it all comes together.
it does.
Even in the listening to him, like we knew when we started the next weekend or week and a half, we knew we were going to a conference with a bunch of people. And so that was kind of a concern for us. We're like, well, I can't go to a conference and just not eat food. And so we did pray about it. And God said, yeah, you can take the weekend, don't eat on your trip there, wait until the next morning and eat with everyone. He told us some things not to eat. We wish we would have asked him about a couple of other things that we found out later we shouldn't have done, but that's okay. We learned. But then we were able, when we got home, just to jump right back into it and keep going. And so we counted our 21 days of actual fasting, even though we took a break over a weekend. And yeah,
Because you were still acting in obedience, because fasting is about the attitude of your heart and not just submitting your body to no food.
You would never fast because we always got something that comes up.
Right.
Well, I can't fast for an extended fast because I got this coming up. Well, actually, you can. You
You
just,
just have to be obedient in it.
yeah,
If God's asking you to do something, he's going to provide the way for you to get through that, whatever it looks like.
Yep.
And yeah, we can trust him with it.
Not getting wrapped up in what we think is the right way to do it is the big thing. And I really needed that too because I took too much pride in being like, yeah, I didn't eat for 41 days, ha, 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 look at me, and I'm a girl. Like, but God was like, and we're doing away with that thought process. So,
hey, it's all about the cleansing, right? We gotta use another fast to cleanse us for past idea.
yep.
Yep, exactly. Always going to shift your perspective when you're fasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yes. I love what you said, that it's all about our heart and our heart attitude. I love search me, oh God, and try me and test me. That's a very good prayer for when you're fasting anytime. But yeah, especially when you're fasting, what needs to go in my heart and my mind? You've taken food, not taken, but yeah, I've agreed with you, God, that it's time for
A break from
break from food. Yes. So what is it you want to speak to my heart about? And I love Ezekiel 36:26, where he talks about changing our stony, stubborn hearts and giving us tender, responsive heart, actually, and granting us the spirit to help us in that. And that's what our prayer needs to be. God, help my heart to be tender and responsive to you and your voice in this process and what your heart is for me.
Exactly. Definitely. He's always concerned with our heart and how he can better connect with us and heal us and restore relationship with himself. It's always his ultimate goal. Obviously, he sent his son to restore relationship with us, to die. Like, our God, our Heavenly Father, would go to the death in order to restore relationship with us. So that's his greatest desire, is to restore relationship with us, to our hearts.
Yeah. It's not a self-improvement plan.
No.
Fast, I mean, I think as humans, that's our fleshly tendency to think is that if I fast, then God will this, right? Because we're going to improve ourselves, our really.
Or we're going to somehow control our environment or the outcome of whatever we want things to be.
Exactly, exactly. And that's not what he wants fasting to be. He wants it to be that time with him. And I would really encourage you to read Isaiah 58 because God was upset with the Israelites at the beginning of that chapter because of how they were trying to do their fasts and yet how they were being hypocrites in the process. And then he says, and let me tell you what a fast should be, and that's the really cool part. And he talks about a lot of different things in there about being released from oppression and the yoke of bondage and slavery, and God doing new things like being your sustenance and your strength and restoring things within you. And so I think that is also really important. I love how you guys talk about naming your fast. And we asked God for a name for our fast. We also asked him for a verse or a song. And it was really fun because God gave my husband a verse and me a song. And the song had that verse in it.
How about that?
It was so cool. Oh, that's so fun. But that's also fun because then as you're going through the fast, you also think about those things and God, what is it you're wanting to teach me about that in this fast? And the reminder, I always loved what you guys talked about too, is sometimes you don't know the results of what your fast is going to be for years later, maybe even. And God may give you a promise in this fast. It may not happen when you think it will, but we have to trust God with the results of our obedience. That's my mother-in-law's favorite saying.
Yes.
Trust God with the results of your obedience. And that's what fasting is all about. We have to trust God that he's going to move and work in the ways that he told us to start this fast or do this fast or in the first place. And yes, there will be immediate results, but there will also be exponential results also.
Because he works outside of space and time.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I think we touched on just about everything, the ups and downs and the roller coaster of extended fasting and sort of what we've been through this year already. It's been a lot of fasting, a lot of prayer time, and a lot of amazing things that God has already done, and we're only a month and a half into the year. So just think how much he can do with a whole year of your obedience if you go into fasting and prayer with him. So I hope this encouraged you to just dive into what God has for you, to be obedient, to trust his heart for you through fasting and prayer. If you enjoyed this episode and it encouraged you, we would absolutely love it if you would share it with a friend or a family member so they can be encouraged too. And maybe even go on a fasting journey with you. Thanks so much for being here. See you next time.
Go fast and be blessed.